Daniel Berry Sports highlights. What's happening? What's happening, man? Thanks for stopping through, man. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs Izzo. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into some of this shit.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
They do already. And they have massive following.
If y'all been buying that generic Viagra from Walgreens, stop now.
You can get 100 milligram generic Viagra for 87 cents in just 2 minutes from Friday Plans.
Ain't no doctor's visit, and they even throw in.
All right, I think I'm going to just download that because I don't feel like dealing with the commercials. We got a few things to deal with today, man. Oh, I might go take care of this right now, man. Flacco, bro. So we got a couple of videos with Flacco. We got to check out the Piers Morgan response to Nick Fuentes. Responded to him in their interview the other day because I think everybody's talking about it. But I think we're going to deal with Flacco. We got to deal with Flacco right quick. We got actually two situations. We got the Tyleo situation. Tyleo was being accused of SA from some famous so-called singer or streamer or whatever she is. We're going to get to that. But what I want to deal with while we wait on Pierce to download is our boy, man. Y'all know I fuck with Flacco. Y'all know I fuck with Flacco, man. But Flacco got caught. Looking at Meech, bro. I don't know where. I don't know where else way I can say it, bro. The young Don, they got caught looking at Meech, man. Hold on, man. So this motherfucker, I'm telling you, bro, the nigga, he didn't even have to do it, bro. Like I've never made an anti video to Flacco, right? But this is crazy, man. I'm like I can't ignore this, bro. Like I can't just let this ride. Flacco, we gonna have to deal with this. We're going to have to deal with this, Flacco. Gonna have to deal with this, Flacco. Alright. So let's get this pulled up. Let's get this pulled up. If it was up to if I was this nigga PR, I'd have told him to take the shit down, bro. But I think he still got it up. Let me see. Yeah, it look like it's still up. Allah. Okay, I gotta make sure I got the right one. Okay.
That next day, and I just.
All right, hold up, y'all. We gotta get to this. Let's get our disclaimer out there right quick.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107.
Raven in the building. What's happening?
Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Went on the internet today, like how they're dressed. Mano just took it too far. They Act right now is digging up that paperwork, man. Act trying to their podcast called Whack. Act.
Leave us alone, man. You got too many things going on. You understand what I'm saying? The only thing on the internet that belongs to you is your titties and that bottle of Hennessy. You're sitting there on that chair with your thighs rubbing, you're sweating.
Hold on, we gonna need a laugh track, man. Hold on. I'm gonna need a laugh track for this foolishness. This is about to go down. Bro, me watching is crazy. I don't know what made Flacco jump out there like that and do this. I don't know what made him do it, but it was crazy, y'all. Here we go. Let's check it out.
We expected a Mano response. But you know who I didn't expect
Here we go, y'all.
to be attacking academics today? I didn't expect Mona from the Joe Budden podcast. Right? Because they're both from the East Coast. I think Ak has said some nice things. Ak has said some very nice things about Mona in the past. So I didn't expect for Mona to be anti-academics. But when the Joe Budden podcast was discussing this, she went hard on Ak. Even I started asking, bro, what's the beef?
It was long too, but I think my favorite part by far was when he compared their. Basically said in so many words that he knows the whores, he knows the hoes, he's in the streets, and the hoes call Ak chicken nugget. I would like to also say I've heard the same. He said that he is a big dominator. He said something like that.
Dictator.
And, he's a big dictator. And don't talk to him like that. You can't even stand with him. Or
How does
sit
that
with
come
him.
back to you? Somebody's like news about their being chicken nugget.
With me, because I told this to Joey, I'm the type of person, if my friends say they somebody, the first thing I say is like, how was the how was it? You know what I mean? So, right there. And not to mention, if you somebody like academics, as big as his mouth is, you're going to say something about that being little because it's funny. You know what I mean? Especially his build. He already built like a baby mom. So it's like built like baby mom with his little ass. It's funny as shit.
I'm playing with Ak, bruh. Y'all know where they getting this small meat accusation from? I'm gonna tell you guys right now, bruh. Right? Academic's ex-girlfriend, when they were beefing, like she took a picture of Ak, I guess, like sleep in his gaming chair. Probably just got done cracking her cheeks on soft. She took a picture and sent it out to the entire industry. That's where they getting a small meat accusation from. But I seen the real deal. Ak don't got a small meat. Pause. Like this.
Whoa! I can't do this, Flacco. Hold on, Flock. Hold on, Flock. What we doing here, Flock? What we doing?
But I seen the real deal. Ak don't got a small meat. Pause. Like this.
You go fuck around and win, boy. Hey. What's wrong with him? Hold on, Flock. Hold on, Flocks.
Bro, I don't gotta say pause, bro. Y'all know my body, bro.
What?
Like, we straight hetero, bro.
What?
Hetero gang, you feel me? Like, we not on that. Y'all know me, bro. Not a flexible bone in my body. But I seen the real thing.
That boy gonna make it, bro. That boy gonna make it to the top, man. Check this nigga out.
Like, I seen the real deal. Ak don't got a small meat at all.
Whoa.
That's just propaganda. That's propaganda. I believe they're coming together and colluding to put the small meat accusations on Ak.
Whoa.
Straight up, it's propaganda, bro. Right? It's collusion going on. And if I'm Ak, bro, listen, bro. If I'm Ak, I'm dropping a vid. Bro, drop the vid, Ak. Ak, drop the vid. I saw Ak. Shut them up, bro.
Whoa, you saw it?
Man, listen, bro, you're better than me, bro. Y'all got one time to put small meat accusations on me, bro. I'm dropping the video, man, straight up. All right? Again, I can vouch. I seen the real deal.
Whoa!
Meat at all. Straight
Whoa!
up. All right, bro, don't got a small meat at all. Straight don't got a small meat at all.
Whoa!
I seen the real deal. Ak don't got a small meat at all.
That boy gonna win. That boy gonna win.
All right, bro.
What's up, Princess? Whoa. Bro, we gotta rewind this, bro. This is crazy. This boy got me clip farming. This boy got me over here clip farming, bro. Do y'all hear this shit? This nigga is a winner. This nigga Ryan is a winner. This nigga Relodian right here. Hold on, let's go back, y'all. Meat vouching is crazy, bro. Meat vouching is crazy. Whoa.
The real thing. Like,
whoa, he's seen the real deal. He said he's seen the real deal. Whoa.
Took a picture and sent it out to the entire industry. That's where they get in a small meat accusation from. But I seen the real deal.
He seen the real deal is crazy.
Don't got a small meat. Pause. Like this. Man, bro, I don't gotta say pause, bro. Y'all know my body, bro.
Right, what?
Bro.
What?
Gang, you feel me? Like, we not on that. Y'all know me, bro. Not a flexible on my body. But I seen the real thing. Like, I seen the real deal. Act don't got a small. Look at this.
He seen the real deal.
Somebody come and look at this. Look at this.
Bro, let me tell you something. DJ Academic ain't even came out and defended his own meat yet, bro. How are you defending this man meat before he defended his own meat?
Me at all. That's just propaganda. That's propaganda. I believe they're coming together and colluding to put the small meat accusations on Act. Straight up, it's propaganda, bro. Right? It's collusion going on. And if I'm Act, bro, I'm drop, bro. Man, listen, bro. If I'm Act, I'm dropping the vid, bro. Drop the vid, Act. Act. Drop the vid. I saw Act.
Yeah, he saw.
Shut them up, bro. Nah, man, listen, bro. You're better than me, bro. Y'all got one time to put small meat accusations on me, bro. I'm dropping the video, man, straight up. All right? Again, I can vouch. I seen the real deal. Act don't got a small meat at all. Straight up.
Shit.
All right? Bro packing, Jamaican, Yardman, real.
Hold on, bro. What you say?
Bro packing, Jamaican, Yardman, real. Something like.
I'm done with this nigga, bro. I'm done with this nigga, bro. Okay, hold on. Let me see if the other video is done yet. We got a lot more shit to deal with tonight. I had to get that on out the way, man. God damn, bro.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
All right, we gonna deal with Piers Morgan responding to Nick Fuentes next. Let's get to it, y'all. Let's get to it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna pull up the real video because I don't want to deal with all the commercials. So give me a quick second. Let's switch this over to here. Switch this over. All right. Switch that over. Okay, what's the name of this shit again? He'll live to regret it. Okay. All right, y'all. We about to deal with this Piers Morgan video right quick. This shit is crazy. Piers Morgan went and grabbed goddamn Dr. Field and a bunch of other motherfuckers to cook Nick Fuentes, y'all. This is crazy.
My family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word.
All right.
You grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist.
Your family's greenlit that too, Piers. Fuck you and your family.
Whoa.
My family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word.
Do you think you grew up in a racist environment? That your father was inherently racist?
If you want to go after families, we can play that game. Your family's greenlit that too, Piers. Fuck you and your family.
You did bring up the guy's dad, and you said his name. This is a person who has had people attempt to assassinate him.
The most powerful role model in any child's life is the same-sex parent. You, I think, are the only interviewer so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable.
Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly
That boy was
talented
glazing right there,
communicator,
y'all.
and very well read. The reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid.
Just about everybody else has had their say on my interview with Nick Fuentes this week, with the notable exception of me. There's been columns in newspapers and magazines, endless hours of YouTube commentary, hundreds of thousands of posts on X, plus the inevitable swarm of groyper weirdos following me everywhere online. All of that was to be expected. Fuentes is highly controversial and increasingly influential, which is why I invited him on in the first place. What I didn't really expect was the frenetic and compulsive pearl clutching from Fuentes and his troll army, who ironically accused me of doing exactly the same thing during the interview. Fuentes and his followers are particularly upset about this. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. It said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you? Well, Fuentes responded by getting very worked up and directing his trolls to harass me and all my family, all very predictable.
You want to go after families? We could play that game. Your family's greenlit then, too. Your family's greenlit as well. So, fuck you and your family.
Whoa!
Fuck you and fuck your kids.
Whoa!
My dad into it.
But Nick, if you clutch those pearls any harder, they will bruise the back of your neck.
Right.
To be clear, again, this wasn't a low blow or a trap or an attack on Bill Fuentes. It was a question about a story which I thought could be insightful. And it was a story that Nick Fuentes decided to share on his own show to his own followers.
My dad refused to allow us. My dad would not let us go. That was a common joke. We would be deciding where to go to eat. You know, what are we going to get for dinner tonight? And it was a running joke that me and my sister would say, Applebee's, and my dad would say, no, we will never eat at Applebee's. So... yeah, so not in a million years she'd be caught dead. Go to some other place. Go to a different restaurant. Go to a local restaurant. So yeah, no Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say.
Really, Nick? What? Nigger Gardens?
My parents wouldn't say.
Nigger Gardens?
About Olive Garden, its relationship with black people. It contains a bad word, contains a naughty word in there, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But
really,
we don't eat there.
So that's Nick Fuentes, in his own words, telling the story that he objected to me asking him about. Well, one of my objectives for the interview was to find out a bit more about this guy who's at the center of a big raging storm amid the conservative movement in America right now. Is he just informative, outrageous, and attention-seeking? Or does he really believe the most incendiary things that he says? And if the answer to that question is yes, how did he get there? Having interviewed people for nearly 4 decades now, I find their upbringing is almost always influential one way or another. And if you don't want other people to talk about it, then why talk about it very publicly yourself? There are many more interesting points of debate from this interview, from crime stats and racism to generational divides to Holocaust denial. We get to all of them, and will do with my panel shortly. But this one small exchange has, for me, really made a bigger point. What Fuentes and his fans hate most is any accountability. It's all about speaking unchallenged. into an echo chamber where there's a whole movement built on directing blame and anger onto everybody else. Girls don't like you because they're difficult. The neighborhood's in decline because of the black people. The world is corrupt because of the Jews, and so on. Now, he's angry about this story being shared because, in fact, he shared it himself. It wasn't a game or a trick to question Nick Fuentes about the words of Nick Fuentes. That was the whole point of the interview. Well, I'll be joined by a stellar panel in a moment. We'll begin with Dr. Phil, host of The Real Story. Dr. Phil, great to have you back on Uncensored, as always. What do you make of Nick Fuentes?
He brought Dr. Phil out to cook this boy.
A lot. And I first have to say, I commend you for doing this interview. I know some people say, why would you platform this person? I think it took courage for you to put him on. And I'm glad that you did, because if there's not an adult in the room to ask the hard questions and hold these type of voices accountable, then they just run unchecked. And you saw what happened here. I spent a lot of time doing trial science work in the litigation arena, and we always say your story goes a lot better if you're the only one telling it. And that's what people mean when they talk about echo chambers and living in a bubble. And what you did was hold him accountable for what he says. And of course, that's not near as much fun when a narcissist is not in a room full of people that are nodding along with them.
Exactly.
You just said, listen, I'm not going to introduce anything new here. I'm going to ask you about what you said and let you explain what you said. And there was no ambush here. He could have predicted with great accuracy what you were going to ask. You just ask it in a very critical thinking sort of way, and that was very uncomfortable for him because someone was holding him to account. And thank you for doing that, because his opinions that he's spreading are ugly, they're corrosive, they're deeply un-American, and that's the psychology of extremism. I think that he is not empowering young men, he's manipulating them. And Pierce, I'm going to take a breath here in a minute and let you comment on what I'm saying, but this is the same algorithm that social media uses. If people like something, they click a little bit. If you can get them worked up about something, they click a whole lot. And that's the same strategy as the algorithm that makes social media so toxic. And that's what he does. And you called him out on that in a very transparent and fair-minded way. You let him tell his story, but you ask about some of the key points.
Yeah, and what was really interesting was I don't think he expected that anecdote about his father to come out so early, or if at all. So he looked a bit taken aback. And the reason I asked it was very specific. I said to him, in all my experience of interviewing people, and you've interviewed as many as I have, Phil, if not more, I really do believe that the vast majority of people are a product of their environment. And if Nick Fuentes, through his own story about his parents there, and particularly his father, if he grew up in an environment of overt racism, with his father saying, I'm not taking you to certain restaurants because they're associated with black fare, then you can begin to understand why he himself has become overtly racist and indeed is proud of it. So to me, it was a very relevant question. But again, it can't be an ambush if all I'm doing is asking him about a story he himself put in the public domain.
Well, he did introduce it into the public domain with great fanfare and having a great time doing it. Look, the most powerful role model in any child's life is the same-sex parent. They write on the slate of who their children are, and they start doing that from a very early age. And they write on the slate emotionally, socially, in terms of values, thinking process. So you're quite right to bring that up. If you want to know who someone is, you need to look at from whence they came. And that doesn't mean they don't have a chance to alter that when they get other worldviews, but certainly that's a relevant subject matter that he introduced. He just introduced it when no one was calling him out or questioning him about it. And it was interesting to me how quickly he put on the victim hat.
Yeah.
And started retreating. I thought it came across as very whiny, immature, insecure, and inadequate. And he said he was a racist. He said he was an incel. He used that term. He introduced that. And that's defined as very misogynistic and resentful and blaming of others. Blaming women, blaming minorities, blaming Jews. He's blaming so many other people, which is strange for someone that's in a leadership position to try to do.
I asked him about his own sex life, right? Because it seems to be relevant, because of this whole belief that he runs a group of incels, who are involuntary celibates, supposedly. And this is how the exchange went down. Are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid. Wow.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's
you think
always
you're an expert
get laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem.
And what was interesting, Philly, he went on to admit he'd never been in love, never had any meaningful relationship with a woman, and yet he's so misogynist in his rhetoric about women, so demeaning about them. I talked there earlier in the interview, which is why I referred again, about how he'd said on his show that women, the trouble is they're not just annoying, they get old, they get ugly, they get fat, and so on. Really demeaning, horrible language about women, but not difficult to work out why he would feel this way if he's never had any real interaction with them. Every so often, there's a piece of cinematic entertainment that just feels bigger and bigger. Not another Hollywood reboot, but an epic story of courage, faith, and meaning. The Daily Wire has gone all out with this new 7-part series, The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. It's based on a book series by Stephen R. Lawhead, and it's a retelling of the classic King Arthur legend. The first official trailer just dropped. You should go and check it out. In this extraordinary world, pagan gods fall silent and empires collapse, but one man's vision ignites a civilization's rebirth. Merlin becomes the bridge between myth and history, shaping the destiny of kings. What's not to like? The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres exclusively on Daily Wire Plus on January the 22nd. Watch the full trailer now at dailywire.com.
Well, it's very transparent. And I mean, these go back to some of the oldest parables in the world. You're talking about sour grapes here, and this is someone that has gotten into a comfort zone where he doesn't interact, he doesn't have relationships that call on him to engage in meaningful conversation with women, learn what they're about and who they are. It's easy to sit up in the cheap seats and criticize. And of course, we know the talent pool in this world at every level. If we took women out of the talent pool in this world, we would be crippled so bad. Look at what's happening in medicine, technology, so many areas that if you look at the enrollment in universities right now, women have eclipsed men. He is so uninformed in his views, and the problem is you get in these cult-like communities where you get people that maybe haven't had a good role model in their lives and have someone like him who can be entertaining, can be charismatic. He's a nice-looking young man, and people, young men will follow that if they don't have good father figures in their own life. In the absence of real leadership, they'll follow almost anyone if they present well, and that's a problem. And mothers and fathers, families need to be asking, what can I do to fortify my young men against this kind of exploitation? And that's why people should be standing up and applauding you, exposing with great transparency what's going on here with this Nick Fuentes phenomenon.
Well, all I wanted to do, honestly, was to work out whether it was all performative or whether he really believes a lot of the things that he says. And by the end, I concluded he does actually believe a lot of this stuff. And
I think he does. I think he believes some of it.
But what I wasn't expecting, Phil, which I was really quite shocked by, and it takes a lot to shock me, but the sheer volume and venom on social media of his so-called groypers, these young men that adhere to his every word, who he kind of unleashes on people. It was unbelievably brazen in its misogyny, in its racism, in its anti-Semitism. It was some of the most vile stuff I've seen in a long time, and it was relentless and has carried on. And targeting me, targeting members of my family, whatever. I don't care. I'm used to it. I've had a lot worse, actually, than this. They remind me of a bunch of mean boys at school. And, obviously I'm 60 years old. It's not going to wash the sides, this kind of thing. However, it was noticeable to me that they were almost to a man, young, male, misogynist, racist, and anti-Semitic, and view everything he says as sacrosanct. This is a kind of brainwashed world. The only question I don't know is how much of them are genuine human beings and how much maybe, as has been reported today in the New York Post, foreign bots that are unleashed because they analyze the speed of reaction to stuff that he posts, and they've worked out a lot of it comes from overseas, and a lot of it may be bots, actual robots doing this stuff.
These bot farms now, there was a time when people would use these bots and they would deploy them by the hundreds. But now our research shows that these bot farms, a lot of them out of Russia and some other foreign countries, are deployed in the tens of thousands. And what happens is they start kind of a zeitgeist on the internet, and then others, real people, see that, and then they start jumping on the bandwagon. And so it can drive a social media kind of think can drive social media to appear that it's thinking a certain way. But I'm sure in the middle of that, he has followers that do echo what he's saying. And it's whiny, it's immature, it's insecure, it's highly transparent. And you wonder what's going to happen to these young men if somebody doesn't force them into some critical thinking where they say, listen, what's the end result here? Where does this lead me in my life? As opposed to opening themselves up to some real interaction and some real critical thinking where they say, what do I want? What's my goal in life? Do I want to have a family? Do I want to have children? Do I want to have a meaningful career where I can fit into a fully functional society? And if they stay on this path, they're going to be lonely, depressed, anxious, inadequate, with a false sense of superiority that is very, very empty, very, very meaningless. And I hate that. I hate that for these young men because he is misleading them. He's not empowering them. He is misleading them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've got three sons of 32, 28, 25. And I'd be horrified if they behaved like that. Horrified if they had those attitudes and views. Horrified if they were so dismissive of things like the Holocaust. Horrified if they spoke about women that way. Horrified if they were brazenly admitting to being racists and openly admitted they avoid black people in case they get attacked and so on. All of it was actually quite disturbing.
Well, it is. But think about all of these young men that are seemingly ascribing to his mindset. Think about what they're being cheated out of. Think about all the joy and pleasure and fulfillment that they're actually getting cheated out of if they stay this course. I mean, think about all the joy you've had with your kids, all of the rich relationships you have with female colleagues that would be off the table. Think about everything that's missed. And when your heart is filled with hatred and this anti-Semitism and how much you're out of touch with reality in denying the Holocaust, and you got him to agree that actually the Holocaust was real and that he said even more than 6 million people. And there were much more than 6 million people because it wasn't just the Jews that were impacted. And you got him to acknowledge some of those things. And I wonder how he'll square that up with his followers based on what he said in the past. But I think he has convinced himself that some of this is real, and that's just that's a sad fact.
Yeah. Dr. Phil, as always, on the money. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you for doing this interview, because as I say, if you don't, then I think it takes you to drill in on this and ask some of the uncomfortable questions. If not, then he runs unabated on the internet. I can't believe people are saying, why are you giving him a platform? Because he needs to be asked the hard questions.
I agree. I feel the same about Andrew Tate and these other characters. They have huge online followings. They are very influential. You can pretend they're not. You can put your head in the sand and let them go ever bigger without anything being challenged. Or you take a view as I do. It's better to get them in front of you, ask them a lot of tough questions about their views and what they've said, and let people make their own minds up about whether they really want to lasso themselves to this person. Phil, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well done, Piers. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. Well, joining me on the panel now is Warren Smith, critical thinker and founder of the Secret Scholar Society, Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible, Mark Lamont Hill, host of Bet News, and influencer Harry Sisson. And also joining us a little later will be Glenn Greenwald. All right, Harry Sisson, we're in the unique position, I believe, where you and I may have a slight agreement here about all this. So what was your view of the Fuentes interview?
Piers, I don't think it's a slight agreement. I think it's a full agreement. First and foremost, I do want to start off by saying I thought the way that you conducted the interview was fantastic. I watched the entire thing, and you I think, were the only interviewer so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable and not let him get away with a lot of his hateful views. I love how you played the clips side by side and made him defend it on the record. So I want to give props to you there. I thought it was really well done. And I watched the entire thing. And I was trying to decide, similar to you, does Nick Fuentes actually believe these things, or is he doing it for the money? Is it performative? And I might disagree slightly with you. I think it's both. I think he does believe some of these things, and I think some of it's performative. I think when he tried to moderate himself, that's performative. But the more hateful views that, as you mentioned, when the mask kind of slipped, that's what he truly believes. You could tell that he was trying to moderate himself when, as you were talking about with Dr. Phil, talking about the Holocaust. He said, I believe it was the Holocaust, at least 6 million Jews. He said that, but then simultaneously claimed that Hitler is cool and that he liked his uniforms and the music and things like that. So no, I think Nick Fuentes broadly is a sad, insecure man. I think he's a liar. I think he's a grifter. And I think you exposed that in the interview.
Andrew Wilson, what did you think?
Well, I was just watching your previous segment, and I thought that the framing there was a little off. So I've always appreciated coming on the show and you letting me get my viewpoints out. But I do take some issue with your framing. You did bring up the guy's dad, and you said his name. And when you said it on the air that way, this is a person who has had people attempt to assassinate him. They have come to his house, shown up at his door, and tried to kill him. And that's on video happening. And so when you said the guy's name and then try to tie it into racism, I know that you know this, Piers, but the left broadly will.
All right, I got to get in here now, man. I got to get in here. So this part right here teed me off right here. So this dude right here is like making a big deal out of him saying Bill Fuentes. Like nobody. All you got to do is Google who is Nick Fuentes' father, and that shit gonna pop right up. So how is that a big deal? And how is Piers Morgan putting his father in danger when he's the one that told the racist story about his dad? Let's see. Let's Google it. Who is Nick Fuentes' father? It pops right up. Bill Fuentes. All you have to do is Google who is Nick Fuentes' father, and it pops right up. It pops right up. According to Wikipedia entries and news sources, Nick Fuentes was born to William and Lauren Fuentes. Put his mom out there too. And his father is half Mexican descent. Bill Fuentes reportedly works for a company in the conveyor products industry. So them making a big deal out of it is really, that's something else. That's another motive behind that. They're trying to ride with Nick Fuentes crying like a little fucking baby bitch about him saying his daddy name when his daddy name. So if his dad is in danger, it's because of his rhetoric. If his dad is in danger, it's because of the story that he told about his dad being racist and teaching him to be racist. Come on now.
Do these harassment campaigns. These harassment campaigns are designed specifically to incite the violence of many of their mentally ill followers.
Andrew, let me just say,
and that's what they do.
Yeah, let me just say, if I had my time again, I wouldn't have said his father's name.
Fuck that. Fuck all that. That's what's making me mad. No, fuck all that. That ain't no big deal. Anybody can Google his daddy's name.
Because I thought it was really important to Nick Fuentes.
The anecdote's not the relevant part.
But the anecdote is relevant. Yeah. The anecdote is relevant when he immediately tried to attack me for ambushing him with a story that he told himself on his show. I mean, look, if I told a story like that...
But that's not what people are upset about.
No, I understand.
They weren't upset about the anecdote. They were upset that you specifically said the guy's name
fuck out of here.
These assassination attempts on him.
Oh, my God.
To be clear... if I had my time again, wouldn't have said his father's name, notwithstanding the fact you can find it in 2 seconds on the internet.
2 seconds?
So it's not like it's not difficult to find. But I do think it's important that anecdote, to me, was potentially very relevant to why Nick Fuentes is the way he is about racism, for example. Because he was telling a story that cannot be construed, Andrew, any other way than his father was directing them away from restaurants because of his racist views about the people that go in them or run them, and it couldn't be seen any other way.
I get that. I get the point of bringing the anecdote up, but that wasn't what looked to me like what was making these guys so angry. Was not the anecdote itself, but the fact that you said the guy's name, referenced it as his dad. And then, this guy's had assassination attempts.
Yeah, but the story was him telling the story.
And by the way, hang on. And a lot of the first assassination attempt happened because of the "Your Body, My Choice" thing that he put that tweet out, and people began doxing his address and his family's name, and that's why they showed up to kill him. So the guy's grievance there, I think, is legitimate.
Yeah, but I think it's important that his grievance wasn't just that I named his father, which again is a matter of public record. You can find it anywhere. Although I wouldn't have said it if I had my time again, because I don't want to attack his family for the sake of attacking his family. It was when he tried to frame it as an unfair attack on his family, when I think actually the story that he himself put in the public domain was potentially very relevant to why he is the way he is. I as a journalist...
Well, how he was framing it was you're bringing this up and name doxing specifically so that you can rally people into a harassment campaign. That's how he saw it.
No, but that wasn't... Yeah, okay, but just to be clear again, that was not my intention. My intention was to ask him, in all sincerity, if you grow up in an environment at home where there is clear racism that you have discussed yourself on your own show, very, unarguably, you can't listen to the clip. I played it earlier. Without realizing that's what he's saying, then is that relevant to the way he is? Let me bring in Mark Lamont Hill here. I mean, Mark, I didn't do that lightly. I had decided before I did the interview that I would do a lot of research into this. I would find all the clips that I felt were the most incendiary things he'd said on the record, and I would ask him and push him about them in a way that I don't think anyone else has really done, and it would be interesting to see the way he responded. And if you're going to talk to Nick Fuentes, who openly admits to being a racist, he did it again with me in the show, that anecdote to me was pertinent to why he may have shaped those views. What do you think? Was it unfair?
I think the anecdote was entirely fair and necessary, particularly since, the first part of the interview was very much about his biography. It was very much about what shaped him. He himself volunteered information, even in that interview, about his parents, about how they came together, about, the loss of their fathers, etc. All that to me is fair game. I agree that invoking his father's name in that moment was too far. I hear you saying if you could do it again, you wouldn't. Because I do have some ethical and moral reservations about doxing. I don't think it's wrong, for example, if someone does something awful in public and it's relevant to the public interest to track down their job and notify their job. But that's not the same thing as tracking down every private citizen just because we think they're racist or sexist or anti-Semitic or homophobic. I may think you're that thing, but you have a right to be that thing, even though I think it's awful. And I don't think you should live without safety because of that. Now, there's a bigger question, Piers, that you raised at the top of the interview, and it's come up again in the media, and that is, should you even be talking to this guy?
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, Piers, I've struggled with this. I interview controversial people. I sit down with people who people say don't platform them, and I take seriously your point that they already have a platform. And I'm not making them big. I'm not drawing attention to them. They already have the attention. They're just not being questioned or challenged on that platform. I concede that point. I agree with you fully. The problem with this guy, the problem with Nick Fuentes in particular, though, to me, is he's such a chameleon. And he moves in such a way that I'm not sure holding him accountable matters to his base. And he does just enough to look moderate and normal and reasonable that I think he'll do more damage by sneaking some people from the middle and dragging them to his side because they think he's reasonable and only later find out that he's a sexist, misogynist, Hitler-loving Nazi, right? Or whatever he is, right? That's where the danger comes for me. I'm not saying we should interview controversial people. I'm just saying this particular guy, I feel like we're playing into his interests and his angle.
Yeah, well, Glenn Greenwald, welcome back to Uncensored. You've had Fuentes on your show. What's your view about that issue, about platforming him at all?
Oh, I didn't even consider it to be a difficult question at all. I mean, if you're going to have people on who are responsible for the invasion and just destruction of Iraq based on lies, or the incineration of Vietnam, or the destruction of Gaza and the deaths of tens of thousands of people, and welcome them and treat them like respectable people. Tell me what it is that Nick Fuentes has done remotely as bad as that justifies allowing them to come on and speak, but not him. And whether you like it or not, he does speak for a huge number of people in his generation and even other generations as well, who feel the same kind of anger and frustration with the status quo, with the establishment, with the kind of dogma that we've been told we have to accept. And there's a lot of people who are angry about it, who rebel against it. And we saw this with Donald Trump on maybe a little bit of a smaller scale, but very much the same pattern. When Donald Trump appeared, everybody was like, oh, he's racist and fascist and he's misogynist and he's this and that. And no one wanted to grapple with the reason why his message was resonating so much. And to me, it is very similar to Nick Fuentes. Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. Like, he's very informed. He's not just some sensationalist babbling on the internet. And I think the reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration.
It's the world's biggest, don't matter. It's the world's biggest, don't matter. What do you
and a lot of which is valid of a lot of people, and to stick your head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to pretend that this isn't happening because his views are too off, but the people who start wars or are responsible for the 2008 financial crisis, these are respectable people who we treat with respect, like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever. That to me is the kind of thing that I think is really distorted.
Yeah, you know.
Damn, he ate that motherfucker up.
Well, no, let me bring in Warren Smith first, and then I'll come back to you, Mark. You know, Warren, that really is my feeling about it. Is that you can let these guys like Fuentes and Andrew Tate run riot, and they do already, and they have massive followings, millions and millions of.
Hold on, did he?
I know.
I got to go see. Did he bring on Andrew Tate? Because if he brought on Andrew Tate, I got to watch that.
One interview, Tate, the number of young men who just come up to me in the street to ask about it is off the charts, more than almost any other guest I ever have. So
we're going to have to check that out.
Phenomenon isn't happening, and Fuentes is a phenomenon, whether people like it or not. And I don't hate everything about him. There were elements of that interview where it was a genuinely quite interesting conversation. But there were elements which, either because he wanted to be performative and shocking and attention-seeking, whatever it may be, or because he really believes it, where I felt we saw a pretty dark underbelly of some of his beliefs. You know, I mean, just when somebody just says, I am a racist, and then explains, let me play the clip first, then come to you. You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally.
Damn.
I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically
because
sure
my father's.
He's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist.
I mean, I thought it was an interesting contradiction there, which he was probably calculating in real time, that having got so exercised about the idea that his father was racist, he then said everyone's racist and there's nothing wrong with it, effectively. But putting that to one side, Warren, I mean, you know, this issue of whether you platform somebody like Fuentes who has these inflammatory views, I think we can all agree they're inflammatory, a lot of his views. You know, am I, by doing it, am I continuing to fuel this phenomenon in a way that is a negative for society? Or in a free democratic society, you know, should I be entitled to interview who the hell I like, as long as I do my job as a journalist of holding him to account over these things, let other people work it out for themselves?
No, I think it's totally understandable, and I agree that you would have him on. I was in the same position where I was genuinely shocked when I made a knee-jerk response video to something he had said. I was overwhelmed by the response. I was like, I had no idea there were this many people out there that agreed with him. And I had people that I knew actually telling me, no, you're oversimplifying this. And I actually went back and looked at the same clip and realized I had oversimplified it. There was actually, I was looking at it through the narrative, going into it without much prior research. And that actually led to me sitting down with him for an hour and a half. And I think it's important, though, if you want to achieve the ideal outcome, it is important to actually genuinely be trying to
It's the world's biggest, don't matter. It's the world's biggest, don't matter. What do you
gain a better understanding of his reasoning and in his arguments, and not just trying to win or embarrass, because in the long run, I think that will backfire and that will cause him to become bigger.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You know, people were asking me, you know, he won, or people said you won. Or I said, look, I didn't seek out to win. I don't seek out ever to win an interview. That's not the point of an interview, actually. What I wanted to do over 2 hours was personally get to know him better, because I know nothing about him other than what I've read. I've never met him. I've never interviewed him. And B, to go over all these things which he's notorious for and actually work out the correct context, what he really believes, what may have motivated this, and so on. And I think a lot of that was achieved in the interview. But it wasn't, you know, I think it very quickly afterwards, you know, when I asked him during the interview, how he felt towards the end, how he felt at the gun. He thought I'd been fair. He didn't think I'd ambushed him and so on. He made that clear in the interview. And yet afterwards, almost immediately afterwards, he comes out full bore on the attack, which is what he does. But it was interesting to me that the reaction from his sort of mob of groypers was instantaneous and extraordinarily widespread. They just come as this mob. And it's if you're not me, who's got a very thick skin, it's a pretty hard thing to get back at you. Look, I don't care. I've had a lot worse. And they'll move on, and that's what happens. But if you're not, actually, it can be very intimidating. It's very threatening, very racist, very anti-Semitic, very very nasty. Actually, like I said, it wouldn't scrape the surface with me because I got a skin of 1,000 rhinos. But to other people, I could see it really being a pretty terrifying experience.
Hey, Piers, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
They're doing that. They're doing that too.
Sorry, Glenn go first. Yeah.
Let me interrupt because it's really for
hang on, guys. Don't talk at once. Let me start with Glenn.
Thanks, Mark. I'm sorry to interrupt. But the issue is, why does he have such a loyal following? Why does he have such a large and loyal following? Now, you can ask that question about Donald Trump, and a lot of people are satisfied by saying, oh, America's just filled with racists and misogynists and xenophobes, and he's playing into that. And maybe that is part of it. Politicians do demagogue and play to our worst instincts always, but there was a lot more to it than that. And I think people understand 10 years later that there is and was a lot more to that. So you can say, oh, yeah, Nick Fuentes has this army of angry young men who are incredibly devoted to him, who believe that he's speaking truth uniquely, because they're also a bunch of Nazis and racists and Jew haters. Okay, that's an easy... I think there's a lot more to it, and I think people ought to grapple with the reason why he's speaking for so many people.
I think that's a very valid point. I've always said about Andrew Tate, for example.
That's exactly what it is.
A lot of the things he says, I can understand. If you're a young, slightly disenfranchised young man, you feel society has got it in for you, and all you ever hear is man bashing. I can understand why you gravitate to a guy like Tate, who stands there tall and proud as a very masculine kind of guy, beating his chest, talking about, taking care of your body and getting fit and being a protector and all these things. I get all that. But then he slides into praise and misogyny, which I hate. Mark Lamont Hill, let me bring you in here. I just want to, before you say what you want to say, what he said after the interview, Nick Fuentes, was Piers Morgan tried his best, but his hardball interrogation made me look even better than Tucker's wildly criticised softball interview. The regime can acquiesce like Tucker, or it can try to resist like Piers, but the result is inevitably the same: total groyper victory. Now, look, on one level, I admire his social media work, right? He goes on the attack, he gives it full bells, he claims total victory. It's very Trumpian, and it can work. It can be very effective, okay? And he's perfectly entitled to claim total victory and whatever, and I'm sure all his supporters agree. But it's interesting that he views me and Tucker Carlson and other people who now do our own shows, whatever, as the regime. Almost like anybody who's older than him is part of some ancien regime that just doesn't get it. All his supporters called me boomer, right? And I was like, I've been called that probably ever. Okay, I'm a boomer. I don't really know what that means, but it just means I'm an old dude who doesn't get it, right? And it may be, as Glenn says, there is a more interesting conversation to be had about why these guys get so popular. And it may be that when I do my slightly old school journalistic trick, as somebody put it, of just being quite tough and rigorous with questioning, that it's viewed by young people who gravitate to people like these guys as just an old boomer going through the motions.
Perhaps. And also I wouldn't assume that because he said that he believes it, that he actually believes you're part of the regime, or that he believes that one is softball or hardball. He gives a lot of the characteristics, mannerisms, approaches, styles of a cult leader. And cult leaders navigate their followers in very particular ways, including re-narrating or counter-narrating events that happen in ways that are favorable to them. That's why when I said I struggle with whether or not you should have him on the show, I didn't say you shouldn't, and I didn't say you should. It's a struggle for me. Again, as a journalist, I have interviewed despots, I've killers, people, genocide leaders. I've done it all. And there are days where it feels very clear and obvious why I should do it. They need to be held accountable. They need to be forced to answer tough questions. And I don't put them in a, contrary to what was said, I don't hold them in a different box than I do Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or someone who I voted for, you know, potentially, right? They all need to be held to scrutiny. Everybody in power needs to be held accountable. I'm with that. My concern in this particular case, though, is that I'm not sure what the net gain is. I don't know if you really got to know or better him, not because you didn't do a great job, you did do a great job, but because I'm not sure who the person is behind that persona. And the question I would ask you, Piers, is if you knew ahead of time that doing this interview would double the amount of people who believed in the worst things that he believes, would you still do the interview? If you knew ahead of time that it would double that
honestly
number,
don't think,
would you still do it?
Well, I don't think that is going to be a consequence of it, honestly. But what I do think is that...
But if it were?
Let me make my point. I don't like generalising. You know, when Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump supporters, the MAGA supporters, a basket of deplorables, it probably lost her that election. When you generalise about millions and millions of people, it's always a very precarious and stupid folly to do that. What I can say with what I can say with some certainty is that pretty well 100% of his groypers who've directly messaged me or members of my family have been highly abusive, overtly racist, very misogynist, and many of them anti-Semitic. I can say that with certainty. Now, what I don't know is how many of those are human beings and how many are from a bot farm, because according to reports in the last 2 days, a lot of his stuff comes from bot farms. I don't know if that's true, but that's been reported in various mainstream papers.
I don't doubt it.
And I don't know how representative these ones on X or Instagram are of the total body of his support. I just don't know. So, you know, I don't want to generalise and say all...
And neither do I, Piers.
I don't want to say all Nick Fuentes supporters are disgusting, because there may be a lot of people... It's a bit like Tommy Robinson.
And to be clear, I'm not saying that... To be clear, I'm not...
Let me finish my point. It's a bit like Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson in the UK, right, is a bit like Fuentes over here. And there's no doubt, as the people marching with him have grown bigger and bigger and bigger, the idea that they're all fascist, racist, whatever, is nonsense. A lot of people are marching for well-intentioned reasons connected with the immigration crisis in the UK. Right? He has bad people as well, and I think he's a malevolent character. But again, I wouldn't generalise anymore about all these people that march.
Can I ask you a question, Pierce?
Yes, yeah, sure.
I would like to
But again,
dive
I didn't generalize.
Well, hang on, let Andrew come in. Let Andrew come in.
Wow.
There was a part of the interview where you were very combative and you said you haven't even been laid and you're a virgin. This guy's a Roman Catholic.
Right.
Isn't he supposed to be a virgin until he's married? Isn't that part of your guys' faith?
To be fair to him, that is. No, I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not a particularly devout Catholic. I disagree with a lot of the church's
But you
teachings.
do agree that Catholics are supposed to remain chaste?
I knew somebody was going to say that.
The strict interpretation from the Catholic
I knew that was
Church
coming.
about that is you should.
So how come he didn't get? Shouldn't he get credit for that?
Well, he couldn't.
The idea that he's kind of staying within the confines of his religious beliefs.
I have no problem, but he also...
Or he can't get any action.
But he also self-identifies as an incel, which is more problematic.
Here's what Mark just said. You see what I mean? Like, he can't get any action. The guy is rich as shit, and he's a good-looking guy. He could get action if he wanted it, Mark.
And by the way,
hang on, Mark.
I agree with you, Andrew. I'm just teasing.
Just let me finish the point.
I agree with you. I'm just teasing.
What I'm saying to you, though, is that, yeah, of course he could. The thing is, though, is that if you guys are saying like he's a huckster, he's a fraud, isn't he in fact following rigorously his faith by doing that?
Well, so my response to that, I think it's a really.
What he said.
Hang on, Harry. I think it's
yes,
a really.
It is what he said in the interview.
I want to respond to Andrew.
No, it's not.
I think it's a perfectly valid question, particularly as I have always said I'm a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. I had spiritual guidance from Catholic nuns when I was 12 years old. You know, I go to church occasionally. I'm not devout. I'm not there all the time. I don't agree with some of the Catholic Church's views and policies, and I wish they would evolve faster. However, you know, as speaking Catholic to Catholic with him, yes, it's a perfectly valid thing that he could say, I am saving myself for marriage. But if that's all he said, fine. But I would argue that, you know, if you look at him as a Christian, for example, how many of his other views are compatible with being a Christian?
Right.
Right.
Well, his view on the priesthood, for instance,
racism
was correct.
His Jew baiting, his overt racism, the despicable way he talks about women generally, and so on. None of those things are what you would categorize as being a good Christian. So
I think you can have dogmatic distinctions with him, and that's fine within the confines of the faith. But with the points he brought up, when he said women aren't allowed to be clergy, that's true. They're not allowed to be clergy by the Catholic faith. And when he said he's saving himself for marriage,
but he also said he shouldn't.
When he said women, Andrew, when he, but hang on, Andrew, when he said that women shouldn't be allowed to vote and should stay at home, i.e., should also have jobs. Would you agree with that?
The Catholic Church does not have dogmatic teaching on democracy. They're not like, oh, democracy is the standard.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you whether you think when he says women shouldn't be allowed to vote and should stay at home and not work.
Well, I think most people shouldn't be allowed to vote. I think I would limit suffrage for most people, like our founders did. I think it's a terrible idea to have universal suffrage.
Would you make it specific to women?
Not gender,
not specific. Not specific.
Hang on. Let me finish this
matter. Why would that matter?
Well, because I do think if you say
limit voting, yes.
I do think after they've waged a 100-year war, women for women's equal rights, to then remove one of the wrenching building blocks of that, which is what the suffragettes fought for, the right to vote. I think if you remove that...
Oh, come on. That whole movement was totally astroturf. That's one. And
well,
two,
it won them the right
let's
to
just
vote.
point this out. There's a good argument from a Christian perspective to make that the husband, the head of the household, should be the one voting. Within his dogma, that would make sense. So there is a Christian case that you could make for that the head of household, the wife... Right now, what goes on in Christian households is that the wife is just doubling the vote of the man, right? So this is not against the purview of Fuentes. And it doesn't even sound particularly misogynistic to me.
Okay,
the 19th Amendment, if he...
Harry, what's your response to that?
Wow.
One says it is proudly sponsored by Cozy Earth, which, like the success stories, including from some very...
They get fat and they're up. They get fat. They get fat and are gross, and they get fat and they're...
They have countless success stories, including from some very familiar faces. England legend Michael Owen, who lost 40 pounds. AFTV's Robbie, who lost more than 100 pounds. To watch their full stories and many more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit oxfordnatural.com/peers. And here's the best part. Use the code PEERS and get 70% off your first order. Yes, 70% off with the code PEERS.
There's so much to respond to right there. I do want to point out that Andrew was talking about, Nick Fuentes is a good Christian. He's being celibate until marriage because of this reason. That's not what he said in the interview. When he was going back and forth with you on this, Piers, he talked about how women are gross and they get fat and they're ugly, and he wouldn't give his female friend a tampon because they're gross and things like that. So Andrew is making an argument for Nick that Nick did not make in the interview. Nick Fuentes is just an open misogynist who has spent far too much time in his basement alone, festering online and getting involved in his own conspiracy theories that he's creating. There's nothing, or at least via his own words in the interview, he did not present it as a case of him being religious and him staying perfectly to the religious text. Now, no, he didn't.
I have the quote.
Andrew, go watch the viral clip. Wait, Andrew, go watch the back and forth with Piers. Go watch the back and forth with Piers when he asked Andrew, please be quiet. Go watch the back and forth with Piers in that specific instance where Piers asked him, why are you a virgin? Have you slept with anybody? And yes, go watch the clip. Fine, let the record speak for itself. You can go watch the clip if you'd like. That's what he said.
No, you said he didn't give a reason.
The entire interview. Andrew, can you please be quiet? Can you just zip it for a second?
Tell you what, why don't we watch the exchange again and clarify?
Let's do it.
Are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who never got laid.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's
Do you think
always
you're an
get
expert
laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy, and your kids are empathetic, and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust, and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem.
So he doesn't actually there, Andrew, mention the reason that you've given.
Now, in that clip,
he said it
but
earlier.
He did mention that he, in his worldview.
I don't. I'm all about the facts. Earlier in that clip, before that part of the clip, he did say that marriage is the only way you can have sex. That was him referring to his Catholic religion.
To be tased.
If it's so important to him, why didn't he say it right there? Why didn't he say it right there? Because his reasoning right there was women are gross and they get fat and things like that.
Yeah.
Wait, no, but if this is so important, if that's his reason.
That's a cherry picked.
No, Andrew. If that's his reason doesn't change in 5 minutes. He doesn't go from, oh, I'm a Catholic, I'm staying true to my religion, to, oh, well, women are gross and that's why I don't do it. Wait. You just said that his religion is the main reason as to why he's celibate. So
That's
now
what
it
he
was
said,
the main reason 5 minutes before, and then it fast forward to 5 minutes later, and he's like, oh, well, women are gross.
That doesn't mean he can't have multiple reasons and a primary reason.
It's just such an important reason that he didn't bring it up again. That makes total sense. He just brought up an entirely different reason.
Okay, so that was his first
plays
reason.
Into his misogynistic
that was his first
views.
reason because it was the most important reason.
But in that interaction, he didn't say anything about religion. And if it's his central view, if it's so central to who he is, that he bases his misogynistic views off of,
well, the other thing, if I could jump in, the other thing, we bring.
Come on, man, don't crash out like you did on that podcast, man.
Hang on, let me bring Glenn back in. The other argument, which I thought was interesting, and I thought I missed a bit of a trick here with it, was when he was talking about the Holocaust, where people have assumed he's a Holocaust denier because of things he said in the past, of trivializing it, questioning the number of people who've died and so on. He seemed to try and take a more moderate position, which was, yes, I believe 6 million Jews were killed, maybe more. Whether he meant that or whether he was being some sort of satirical
He was
thing.
satirizing you. He was satirizing that.
That's what I now believe was probably happening. Yeah. So I suspect he was.
Yeah.
But regardless, his argument was it all happened so long ago. Why did Jews continue talking about the Holocaust? We've all moved on. They use it all the time as a political weapon and so on. And of course, I suppose the obvious question for him, I went and checked afterwards how many times he's talked about, for example, on his show, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which was over 2,000 years ago, right? He does it all the time. So, if I'd been smart in the moment as a fellow Christian, I would say, well, hang on, but isn't that exactly what Christians do all the time about the crucifixion? What's the difference?
Sounds like his religion does matter to him.
Because it's absolutely central to their religion. And I think, I do think so much of what your interview with Nick Fuentes highlighted was extreme generational differences. It was sometimes like watching two people speak different languages. Piers, you and I are kind of the same age. You're obviously older. Everyone can see that, but just a little bit. And, for people who were born in like the 60s, the Holocaust was just 20 years before. World War II had just ended 20 years before. There was a mythology about the United States, about our role in the world, about how great of a country we were, about all the great things we did, about the Holocaust, the unique evil. Now it's 75 years ago. And people who are next generation, where Harrys were born in, 2000 and 2002. And this idea that the Holocaust has been weaponized. We've been beaten over the head with it for 8 decades. We've been forced to spend and pay huge amounts of money in reparations, or that slavery is sometimes weaponized that way. This is a very common view. So I think when he's doing things like making jokes about the Holocaust, it's not because he thinks it's funny that huge numbers of people were exterminated. I think it's a way of purposely being transgressive about orthodoxies and pieties that a lot of people in his generation don't accept. They don't want to keep talking about the Holocaust.
Glenn, hang on. Hang on, Harry. Hang on. There was a callousness to it, and I'll tell you why. I brought on a guy called Danny Finkelstein. He's a top journalist for the Times newspaper over here, who wrote a very powerful book about his family and their horrendous experience at the hands of Hitler and Stalin. And it's incredibly powerful. It's very moving. It's informed his life. And I'm going to talk to Danny actually after we finish this, because he's been on the receiving end of the most appalling abuse in the last 48 hours, all directed by Nick Fuentes, who was so dismissive of him talking about his mother and father, so just callous in the way he responded. It's that kind of utter devoidness of any empathy whatsoever. You can have a view that we should try and move on generationally from these seismic moments, okay, but you don't have to be so callous towards somebody whose family literally got murdered by people like Hitler and Stalin, do we? I mean...
But the idea, Pierre, I think the thing is like this generation of people grew up in the wake of the Iraq War, in the wake of endless war, in the wake of the destruction of their financial security with the 2008 financial crisis, with all the lies of COVID and Russiagate and all the rest of it. And faith and trust in these institutions have collapsed. So when they look at people who represent institutional thinking and they're told you're not allowed to make fun of this and you're not allowed to talk about this and accept in the ways that we prescribe and we're going to call you all these names unless you affirm all these pieties over and over and over again, one of the ways of rebelling against that is to say, you know, it's a very common generational reaction is to say, F you, we're going to transgress every line that you told us we can't because we hate you. We think that the things that you're doing have been destructive to our lives. And I think like ignoring that part of youthful transgression, which is very common.
You know what, Glenn? I think it's a very valid point, and there may well be a generational thing to this. Let me bring in Warren. Just for the record, by the way, Andrew, we've just been through the whole transcript, and he never uses the excuse that you put. You may have heard him do it elsewhere. He talked about clergy, whether women should be allowed to be clergy women and so on, and obviously they can't under the Catholic Church doctrine. But he never uses. He never says his celibacy is for religious reasons.
That's his primary view. His primary view is he's supposed to wait until marriage.
Yeah, no, that may be his view, but he didn't express that view in my interview. Is the point? We've just checked the transcript.
And Andrew was just saying, "Oh, I have the quote, and there's no quote."
Well, look, it may look. I can't rule out. He hasn't said it elsewhere. And it may be Andrew's heard him say that before. I'm just saying in my interview, he doesn't
sometimes on TV we can just say, you know what, I made a mistake. It's okay to be like, yeah, I got it wrong. I may have heard it elsewhere.
Yeah. I like that.
All right, let me bring Warren back in. Look, Warren, you're a critical thinker. Glenn's stopped me in my tracks a little bit and made me think about this, right? Because I think there is probably a generational thing here. And I do think that in a way, maybe Mark's right, that by me interviewing Fuentes, the only real winner at the end of the day may be Nick Fuentes, because none of his supporters, certainly from the reaction I've had, have changed their impression of him one iota. I mean, they just assumed he just landslided me and that was it, and I was an old boomer sent packing. And it may be, as Mark says, that other more moderate people quite like some of the things they heard. I don't know. He is charismatic, he's a good talker, and he's smart and all these things. I don't dispute any of that. From a critical thinking point of view, where does this take society? If people like Nick Fuentes grow ever more popular, what will happen to a whole army of young men here?
Well, last night I held a focus group to try and get to the bottom of this, and I was with over 30 people. The vast majority, 3 disagreed with.
All right, we got to get to some more shit. There's a bunch of shit going on I can't hardly keep up with right now.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Don't conquer, feel the spite. No soda, only Sprite. When vodka is quite nice. Taking over my life. Putting up and stop to it. Tears twisted, don't sip it. Good example to the kids. Give me.
This Talil situation is really bad. And when I say really bad, people, I'm not exaggerating. This is horrific.
I was sexually assaulted at a party, a streamer award party. And not only that, it's by somebody that you guys love. And I'm tired, bro.
Talil has always exuded scaring off the hoes energy.
Relax. Wait, hold on,
But I think anyone would be lying if they say that they expected to wake up one day and hear Jordan Pauline accuse Talil of full-out grape.
I'm tired, guys.
Whoa.
Tired, guys. Like, literally. People are evil and malicious. And like, people think they can do anything. like anything. I'm literally like so disappointed in people because I think people are good people, and I always give people the benefit of the doubt. And they're evil. They're evil, bro. And I'm done streaming. I'm done doing this shit, bro. And this is gonna be my last stream.
Way too early to make a determination on whether or not Talil is guilty or whether or not this chick is lying. It's way too early. And if you've already made up your mind, then you're probably somebody who already have implicit biases towards either Talil or towards this girl. I'm not going to say she's lying, and I'm not going to say Talil is guilty. But what I would say is Talil has a lot working against them. There not being a clear-cut reason why this chick would want to lie on Talil works against Talil. It does. Because you can always go with, she's embarrassed, she regrets it the next day, so that's why she's now screaming essay or grape. Yeah, but when you really look at this situation and you truly look at it and examine it, there's no clear-cut reason. Like, you can't go with the cloud chasing angle because this chick was famous before Talil. She's probably more famous than Talil. She just had a top 40 hit. This chick is not like a cloud chaser. She's not, you know, a chick looking for clout or fame off this situation. So when you take that out the picture, what other reasons would she have to lie on Talil outside of maybe she regrets it? But even that isn't really a strong alibi in this situation. Even when looking at the possibility that she may be lying because she regrets it or was embarrassed that she slept with Talil and regretted it afterwards because he has a girlfriend, even when you look at that situation, wouldn't the logical thing be not to say anything if she was truly embarrassed and she wasn't great? Like, if she was embarrassed of this, then what's more embarrassing than telling the entire world that you did this, right? Because she could have kept it private with just her and Talil. Nobody else would have known that she slept with somebody who had a girlfriend. So when you trace down that logic, it still really don't work here, right? It still makes no sense. It still really doesn't lead or prove that she lied. Honestly, every which way you go, it kind of looked really bad for Talil. And the only reason why a lot of us is still leaving some hope or some doubt here is because people are innocent until proven guilty. And until Talil comes out and tell his side of the story, I'm not just going to automatically say he's guilty. But it's looking really bad here.
Because people are evil. And it's always going to be sides being chosen on. And I'm tired. I'm literally tired, you guys. I don't deserve being treated like I'm nothing. And I'm really like trying my best to not be, you know, like, I want to save people in their careers and shit, and like, you know, but what about me? Like, what about my feelings? What about how I feel? You know, and not everyone is your friend. And you guys love these people so much. You guys love these people so much. And as a woman, you always get exiled, and it doesn't matter how I dress, you guys know I'm asexual.
This situation is heating up, bro. They got an entire Diddy Rico against Talil and the Clover Boys, bro. Messages.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, Silent J. Why did she go to the cops before she came to the internet? And why did she wait till after the streaming awards for this to pop off? Why she wait till after the streaming awards to come out with this? You know what I'm saying? This stuff, the timing is off, if you ask me. The timing is kind of suspicious to me. And yeah, why didn't she go to the cops?
Surfacing from women who are claiming that they suffered similar experiences as Jordan Pauline at the Clover House. One woman says, my first time I went to the Clover House, the very first thing Talil said to me was, do you want to F? If you don't want to F, there's no reason for us to talk. He also refers to women they cast as groupies to their face, which is highly disrespectful. People want to believe what they want because of how people portray themselves online. But I know how he is in real life. I pray you get the justice you deserve. He made speech saying, toast to you know what happens when we get the ladies drunk. Something like that. I was like, oh my God, what is he, Diddy? Before we get back to the video, I want to announce that this video is sponsored by the Free Cash Reward app. Free Cash is essentially a mobile app with code or click the link in my...
EVE Online is a vast universe.
Really unfair to me because I feel like I make sure that everyone is in a good position and they feel good and like, you know, everything was innocent. And I don't care how drunk somebody is, you should never take advantage of them. My phone was stolen and broken. I had no way to get home, and I was assaulted, you guys, by someone that you guys all love.
The story as is doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at the moment, but she is emotional and distraught, so you got to give her a pass. Like, she's not going to tell the story perfectly the first time while crying and in distress. Because things like, who stole your phone? Who broke your phone? Why did they steal it? Why did they break it? Was the intent to stop you from calling for help? Was this before or after Talil allegedly forced himself upon you? Those details are important because those details actually tell you the severity of the criminal nature of this, right? Because, if he took your phone and he broke it before forcing himself upon you, then this is premeditated. And the police got to get involved. I think the police should have been the first person called. Before
Right.
the internet heard about this, a
Right.
person should have heard about this. Because when Talil eventually come back and tell his side of the story, he's going to tell a story. Now he has it, and it's been 16 hours.
Okay, hold up. All right, give me a second. We got to deal with some more shit. All right. So,
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act.
Let's get to this
1976.
right
Allowance is made for fair
quick.
use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
well, Tasha K has sent me some wild shit this morning. What the fuck is it at? Oh, give me a second, y'all. All right. Okay, where did it go? Oh, there we go. Nope, that's not it. Some shit came out about Damian Wayans today. I can't find it no more. I knew I should have did my video. Hold on. I know she's taken down. Is she taking down? Look. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh.
Comedian,
All right, here we go.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
went to his comedy shows. They're never. I get it. I think Marlon Wayans is a great, like, comedic actor, just like Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart's a great comedic actor, not drama actor, comedic actor. Okay, but as far as great comedian, I went to his comedy shows. They're never sold out, and people walk out in the middle of having a snack. It's like when they go to get a snack, they leave. They don't come back. Now, you know, Cat Williams got a lot to say. He got every single comedian hitting back. And I was like, I love it. I love it. You know, it's between them. You know, it's kind of like co-workers. I'm the best worker. Everybody's vying for the top position. I know Dave Chappelle wants to be the peacemaker, saying, why are you dragging out all the black comedians instead of the white comedians? And you know, he got his Dr. Martin Luther King suit on, so let's hear him.
What about the black man putting on a dress conversation?
You talking to a black man that put on a dress? Mm-hmm. I don't. That conversation to me it's silly because it's a negative thing that is only in black people. We have, for some reason, been programmed to look down on the craziest parts about our experience, that we're supposed to not embrace our past, not embrace our history, not embrace our heroes, not embrace our different levels of comedy, that we have to be this way. When Robin Williams puts on a dress and his Mrs. Doubtfire. He gets nominated for an Oscar, and white people think it's brilliant. His community embraces him. When Dustin Hoffman puts on a dress in Tootsie and he wins an Oscar, he's labeled brilliant. When black people put on dresses, all of a sudden we're labeled by our own people like something negative. And I'm like, we did White Chicks. That's a classic movie. Mm-hmm. It's a classic. I don't care what nobody says. It's a classic.
Everyone says it's a classic.
That whole thing about, you put on a dress and you selling out, that is not an artist's mindset. When you're an artist, you go out and you create art.
There's truth to everything. This is just like there was truth to what Kat said. They emasculated black men by making them wear dresses as a Passover in Hollywood, which is true. They do it to white men as well, too. So you're saying that white men are, getting congratulated for this because they're doing the bending over a lot faster than black men. I get where he's trying to kind of mix the art with wearing the dress because I play male characters. I play Bootsy, uncles, and things like that. So I get it. Black women are now being deemed more masculine than ever. But when it comes to the black male and what's going down with the black male and how extinct the black male is kind of going here in the United States.
See, this one was this wasn't what I was looking for, y'all. Earlier, she put up an article where it was somebody came out. I'm gonna see can I find it. Somebody came out and said that Marlon Wayans has been in multiple homosexual relationships.
Sold out and people walk out
with multiple men
in the middle.
Hold on, let me see. Let me go back up here and go to our post because I was going to read that earlier. I want to see can I get it off now. Okay, let's do. Okay, let's reels. Let's post. These are the posts. Okay, now where the hell? Let me see. Look over here on this side right here. I think this might be it right here. Here we go. Found it, y'all. Here we go, y'all. Found it. All right, y'all. We got to get into this because I'm clip farming the shit out this right here. We got to get to this right here. All right, y'all. Let's check this out.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
All right, here we go. Marlon Wayans dragged on X after explosive thread accuses him of hiding same-sex relationships and living a double life. So this beef with 50 Cent ain't panning out too great, but I want to say this before I move on. This may be an expose of Marlon Wayans, but we all have always assumed that Marlon Wayans was a homosexual, that Sean Wayans was a homosexual, that Damian Wayans is a homosexual, and that Keenan Wayans was a homosexual. I'm sorry if y'all didn't know that. This is the way we've all looked at y'all forever. We've always assumed that all of the Wayans brothers were homosexual. So this is not a big expose to me at all. I'm not shocked. My world hasn't been turned around. We've always assumed that all of y'all were homosexual. Okay? Almost all of the men on The Living Color. What's his name? The other guy? I can't think of his name right now. He played on Martin as well. Jim Carrey, all of y'all. We've always assumed that all of y'all were a little bit homosexual. So let's read on. Let's go check it out. Marlon's public support of his transgender child, Kai, born in 2000, and repeated Pride Month posts are genuine. Whoa. But also function as preemptive narrative shielding. It has also been said that there are private conversations where he offers to coming out as a career suicide, giving the $4 million Wayans brand equity tied to urban heterosexual comedy. Supposedly there is a 2021 text exchange recovered via forensic imaging of a seized phone has Marlon telling the male partner, "I love you, but the world ain't ready, and my checks Show damn ain't ready. Not confirmed, speculation for now. 2 former assistants state that NDA packages for stuff explicitly include clauses prohibiting discussions of the boss's personal dating life, male or female, with liquidated damages set at $2 million per breach. No coercion, no criminality, just a man living a compartmentalized life that would fracture his core audience demographic and decades of marketing identity if fully exposed. Let's keep going. Primary relationship, a 9-year on and off involvement with a Los Angeles-based entertainment attorney named Seal, practicing a Century City firm from 2008 to 2017, including shared travel on private jets, tail numbers, and co-ownership of a West Hollywood condo. They put the address out there. Financial trails show $1.4 million in consulting payments routed through Wayans Brothers Entertainment to attorneys LLCs between 2010 and 2016, far exceeding standard legal retainers. Oh shit! Second significant partner, a New York-based creative director, met on the set of 50 Shades of Black 2015, who received $680,000 in production bonuses and lived rent-free in Marlon's Tribeca loft from 2009 to 2014. Shit. So-called bodyguard testimony deposed under protection. Details arranging discreet hotel suites in Atlanta, Miami, and Las Vegas for male guests with specific requests for no male staff on the floor and burner phones left at the door. It's crazy. Damn. He says, Marlon, I know you are not talking. I will say allegedly for the smidgen of respect I have left for you, this is what's been floating around. Marlon has spent 3 decades cultivating a hyper heterosexual womanizing comedic persona, White Chicks, scary movie franchise, stand-up routine centered on female anatomy while privately maintaining a fluid sexual spectrum that includes long-term relationships with men. Shit. Multiple people inside his inner circle, 3 former personal assistants, 1 ex-bodyguard, and 2 industry producers under NDA breach protection spoke on a reoccurring same-sex encounters dating back in the Living Color era. I knew it. 1992 to 1994. With at least 4 documented male partners between 1998 and 2023. Whoa. Crazy work. All right, y'all, we going to check out what's going on with Candace Owens before we get up out of here. Hold on.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
For Candace Owens, I'm starting to get really scared for her. There's a lot of powerful people in powerful places who don't like what she's saying. And it feels like they're getting ready to do whatever it takes to make sure she can no longer say it. I've seen a couple of anti-Candace Owens material on the internet this week, but none of them concern me more than this Tim Pool video. We'll get to the other ones, but let's start here first. See, this Tim Pool video where he's ranting about Candace Owens and he's ranting and raving. See, I'm a pretty savvy guy. And what I pulled from this isn't what other people pulled from this. After watching this video, I came to the conclusion that Tim Dillon was dog whistling a call for someone to go ahead and do something very bad to Candace Owens. Send her to the gulags permanently.
Candace Owens is a evil scumbag. She is a degenerate. She is burning everything down, and she's gloating and smiling while she does it. And you know what you told me? She has no security. She doesn't deal with the shit we have to deal with.
This is the episode where Tim Pool is discussing how some random dude pulled up to their studio and fired 3 shots. His local police was contacted by TMZ, and they said whatever story Tim is telling online cannot be substantiated, and they have no idea whether or not he's telling the truth. That's because Tim ran to the internet to tell the world about this shooting and how the shooting is a result of him speaking out against evil and the Matrix is after him and he's the last truth seeker left. But according to local police, when they showed up to investigate this and ultimately catch these evil people who did this to Tim Pool was not cooperative. He refused to give them the footage for them to do their investigation and ultimately locate these people, which makes me think that Tim Pool is full of shit and nobody actually shot up his studio.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you give it to the police? Why wouldn't you want the police to use every resource they have to catch these people who you believe came to assassinate you, who you said you would have been dead if you were at the studio when they came, and you are perfectly fine and comfortable with not giving the police what they need to investigate this? All right, bruh. But when he bangs on the table and screams, "You told me she has no security. This is unfair." He's saying it's unfair that his house got shot up and Candace Owens' house didn't get shot up. He's saying it's unfair that he needs security due to the threats on his life, but Candace Owens don't have no threats on her life. Why would it be unfair? Shouldn't you be thankful that this woman don't have threats on her life, that somebody isn't coming to shoot up her house? Why are you mad about this? But as he continues, he does 3 things. He paints and makes people visualize her property.
Damn.
Right? He kind of directs you exactly where security is, where security isn't,
Really?
where the weak holes is. He then paints himself as the victim and then incite some unstable hater of Candace Owens to go ahead and do something to her.
She's a piece of shit. She's making everyone else suffer. And all of these conservatives out there that send me these messages have no balls to call her out. More and more people have started doing it. They send me these messages. Good for you, Tim. Good for you, Tim. I wasn't the first person to do it. I'm not going to take credit for that. But don't DM me like I did something for you as you cower, scared that she'll put you on her thumbnail and claim you benefited from Charlie Kirk's assassination, which he's doing to me right now.
That man is shameless, bro. He has no limits to his grift. The holidays is coming up. Let me show you how to make a couple extra bucks.
Oh,
so
hell
you don't
no.
have to do.
Hell no. Flacco?
Some free time before bed or what?
Shits. No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the one fat guy you mentioned with no wall and no barrier in a suburban neighborhood with neighbors. Shouldn't give 2 shits. No one's out for her. She's lying about all of this. You told me you went to her house and she's got a 4-foot wall and one fat guy.
Peep the breadcrumbs that he laid down before he gets to the security details of her home. Now, I'm going to spare you the misery of not playing you every single thing he said in his live stream because it's pretty long. But he starts off by saying how Candace Owens is going to cause the right to lose the midterms, and that the right is going to lose the midterms because of her single-handedly and the division and chaos she's causing. He also says that she's causing a lot of people to suffer. He goes on to say it's not fair. He goes on to demonize her and vilify her, and then immediately transition to how she lives in a suburban neighborhood with no security. There's only one fat guy up front.
In the middle of nowhere. And I got strangers coming up to my house in Maryland, breaking in. I got people showing up and beating up the residents who trying to live there. How the fuck am I even supposed to sell this property? And it's all lies, it's all hypocrisy, and it is for the purpose of making money. And she does not live the way other people live. And she claims she liked Charlie, she loved Charlie, and she is burning everything down that he built because she is evil. She is evil. And I'll say it again, this conservative movement is fractured, it's fried, whatever it is. Okay? Republicans are on track to lose the midterms. They were actually trending in the other direction until Charlie Kirk was murdered. Yeah. And this is the point, isn't it? The most effective political assassination in history, and thanks to the likes of the vile Candace Owens, she has turned Turning Point into the perpetrators of the crime that was against them. I don't get paid by any of these people. I'm not on good terms necessarily with Turning Point USA. They didn't invite me to their stupid event. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. They invited me back after I started criticizing Candace. I'm not going to your event. I'm over all of this. The last thing that I need to deal with is a bunch of cowards in conservative media refusing to stand up to her.
You hear the vitriol in his voice, and by the way, it's all jealousy. Candace Owens did nothing to this man. Nothing at all. This man was actually on his podcast a week ago complaining about how, he don't think Candace Owens will ever acknowledge their show.
Wow.
She'll never respond to their show after weeks and months of him criticizing.
I think she knows the show is very important, and I think this will get a response. I mean,
maybe. You know, the thing is, like we were looking at that story, talking about how much money she made. There's Twitch is a big problem right now with bots. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why people buy bots to make their viewership look bigger. We're not going to get, so right now, what do we have? We've got we're split between Rumble. We have 46,000 concurrent viewers, which is it's actually really good because 4 years ago, when we were in the off season after the 2020 election, we were averaging about 27,000 concurrent.
I'm a friend of Charlie's, at one time an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Really?
Stop.
So this is just to me. I'm going to also let you know they pre-recorded this. Obviously, I told you this yesterday from about 11 o'clock to 4 p.m. I have sources just everywhere, CBS News, the people that were in the audience I showed you were emailing me, and they had to do multiple takes because Barry wanted to read a prompter. These questions were pre-submitted, okay? And I would like to respond to this loaded question. What would you like to say? The podcaster Candace Owens, and I'm not even going to address this repeat talking point about people making money, except for the people that have actually made off of all of the money, millions upon millions of dollars. But this is the new thing. It's like if you keep doing what you were already doing in podcasting, or keep doing what you were already doing and doing ballistics on YouTube, if you catch a bunch of views, they want to convince you that like you wake up and you turn into a millionaire.
The conversation about how much money, I guess, YouTubers or podcasters made talking about Charlie Kirk, I don't really like it. Turning Point made over $40 million last week in their meeting with Trump. They've raised over $100 million since Charlie Kirk has passed away. Podcasters talking about Charlie Kirk or talking about his situation doesn't take away from anything Turning Point got going on. They've made enough money, to be honest. But y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think, man? All right, are y'all concerned for Candace Owens too? Because I'm concerned.
Candace Owens is averaging over 100,000 live viewers on premieres. Not going live, premieres. That means pre-recorded videos that Candace Owens is putting up. She's averaging over 100,000 live viewers, bro. She is making a bag, and they mad. There's so many people been complaining about her views and the bag that she making off of this shit that they're basically trying to make it seem like nothing she's saying is true because she's making money. Well, Candace has always made money. She's been popular for a long time before Charlie Kirk. She was doing numbers before Charlie Kirk. Did it enhance her views? Yeah. Did her views go up? Yeah. But that's what happens when you're closely attached to a viral situation like that.